My family and I have been goat ranchers in California for 3 generations now. I don't know anything else but ranching. It wasn't gigantic, more medium size. We only had a couple hundred goats at the time this story takes place. Living away from people, cities, and towns brought a lot of peace with it. The ranch had always been an oasis for me and my family, and friends who visited would routinely comment on how peaceful they felt while there. There was one week, though, that stands out from the rest. A week of terrifying and confusing events that haunt me to this day. We had been dealing with some troublesome coyotes at the time. California was going through another drought, and the predators were coming down from the hills looking for food and water. A few of those predators had decided my ranch and my goats were the meal they were searching for. My dad was too old at that point to help out, and my son was away at school, leaving the coyote problem up to me to solve. I parked myself and my rifle around where the goats grazed the most and waited to see if any of them showed up. A few curious coyotes made their way onto the ranch, but would scatter as soon as I took a shot. I did manage to get one of them, the boldest of the pack, hopefully sending a message to the rest that the buffet was closed. When I went to collect the coyote corpse, I noticed something strange. He appeared to have cotton, or something like stretched cotton, caught in his fur, and around his legs and down his back. It looked as if he had broken out of a cocoon or wandered into a field of cobwebs. I grabbed a chunk of it, looking at it, moving it around in my fingers. It was wiry but thick, like a spider web, but stronger, much stronger, closer to a fishing line. I grabbed another longer strand of it and pulled it on both ends, trying to snap it, but it held itself together. I tried a few more times until eventually it snapped with a sharp twang like a guitar string. "Where have you been?" I said out loud, kneeling down to the body. I threw it into the truck and headed back to the main house. The confusion and curiosity took over my mind. I was in a bit of a fog the rest of the day and decided to just do my normal chores and get a good night's sleep. I was going to explore the ranch the next day and drive the fence line to see if I could find any other clues. The good night's rest I was looking forward to was abruptly interrupted by the aching cries of terrified goats. I jumped up in bed and immediately grabbed my rifle to head outside. "It's those damn coyotes again," my dad said as I passed him on the way out to the porch. "Maybe. Just stay inside, okay? I'm gonna go check it out." I turned on the outside lights illuminating the fields and the area around the house, including the large barn where the goats were kept at night. I could see the door to the barn had been pried open. As far as I know, coyotes can't pry open doors like that. A bear could, but there weren't any bears in my area. The goats continued to yelp and cry. I wanted to run over. Whatever was attacking them was still in there. I cautiously walked over to the barn, my rifle at the ready. I got about halfway from the porch when a set of spindly insect legs emerged from around the barn door. Each leg was huge like black bamboo, attached to the huge body of a spider, the size of a Great Dane, black and purple with large orange spots on its rear. It had a row of eyes that shined like polished billiard balls. The creature crawled out of the barn and up the wall to the roof. I was frozen in my untied boots. It didn't seem to acknowledge me, and in those split seconds I weighed my options. Run back to the house, or try and go save the goats. I took one step forward towards the barn before a horde of spider legs crowded the doorway as more and more spiders began to pour out of the barn. I hadn't noticed till then the goats had gone silent. They were most likely all dead, and there was little I could do at this point. It was time to save my own skin. I ran back to the house as fast as I could, lifting my feet high, taking deliberate steps to avoid tripping on my shoelaces. I got back inside and slammed the door behind me and deadlocked it. "What is going on?" My dad was standing in the living room watching from the window. "We need to get in the cellar. Now." I urgently rushed him and myself into the cellar and barricaded the door behind us. I could hear the scuttles and scratching of the spiders as they crept along the porch and around the outside of the house. A window shattered. They were in the house. My dad and I tried our best to be silent as possible as the spiders tore their way through the house upstairs. After what seemed like hours, the noises ceased, and the peaceful silence that the ranch normally provided returned. The two of us stayed in that basement for the rest of the night, just to be safe, and eventually I fell asleep, my hands glued to my rifle all night. I was awoken by a loud knock on the front door. I didn't get up to leave the basement until I heard it again. It was an urgent knock, loud and forceful, to make sure we heard it, to know that they were there. It must have been important. It could have been a neighbor coming by to check on us. Maybe they'd experienced the same thing during the night. But when I answered the door, it was someone I had never seen before. He looked official, dressed in an olive drab uniform, but he had no patches or insignias showing where he worked. Other than the American flag on one shoulder and the California flag on the other, I had no idea who he was or why he was at my ranch. "Good morning, sir," he greeted me as I opened the door. "I'm with Fish and Game. I hope I'm not disturbing you, but I was driving by and couldn't help but notice your early Halloween decorations." "What?" Confusion swept over my face and I squinted my eyes, wondering what the hell he was talking about. He motioned for me to step out onto the porch. I gasped in shock when I turned and looked at the barn. It was covered in the same webs I had seen on the coyote. A cocoon of white, thick webs wrapped the barn, leaving just a few glimpses of the building beneath. The rest of the ranch that I could see was covered in a blanket of the same web. Everywhere I looked was covered in some form of the spider's webs. I couldn't think of anything to say. I just stood there like a statue, my hand still gripped to my rifle. "You should be fine from now on. I think they were just passing through," he said, snapping me out of my trance. He seemed so casual with the way he was speaking, as if this was a normal occurrence, and I shouldn't be too disturbed by the fact that giant spiders had just destroyed my ranch and eaten my livestock. "I'm sorry, what?" I shook my head, shaking a little bit of the trance off. "If anything else like this happens, you can always give us a call. We've got a